We're here at Dinas Rock, Wales, and we're looking for King Arthur.
Hello, my friends. So, welcome back. Now, today we are on the trail, on the footsteps of King Arthur, the legendary, mythic King of Britain. Now, King Arthur is associated with a few different places in Britain. Always remember, folklore is always rooted, tied to landscape. So, King Arthur is associated with Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. He's associated with Glastonbury Tor in Somerset, in South England, and he is associated with Dinas Rock in Wales. In all three places, he is said to be asleep under the hill. This makes King Arthur a fancy term, a chthonic king, a subterranean underworld king. So this is a very common and a very old... Come on. Yeah, come on, mate. So this is a very common, very old idea in European mythology, associated with a lot of places in Europe. Probably a sign it's very old, at least Iron Age, probably Bronze Age, probably Indo-European notion. The idea of a chthonic king, a sleeping king that is resting beneath the earth, in the underworld, and is waiting to emerge when the nation is in crisis. This is also tied to ideas of seasonal disappearing and reappearing deities, dying and resurrecting, gods tied to the cycle of the solar cycle and the agricultural cycle. So one place that Arthur is associated with is Dinas Rock in Wales, and a very, very old piece of folklore. So I will tell that piece of folklore here now. But first, I would like to take you on a journey to the place itself, because you cannot separate folklore from landscape. When you read a piece of folklore in a book, you sometimes lose that. So this video, my friends, will be in three parts. First, there will be a little bit of a walk around and a bit of van life. We're going to drive to Wales, near Tamsin and a dog. We're going to have a walk around. Then I'm going to tell the story. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the story and a bit of a personal anecdote. So those three parts. And if you want to skip forward at any point, I'll put some contents down in the description below. So let's go on a journey to find King Arthur and his sleeping knight.
Behold, Wales, the land of the Red Dragon. The Arthurian hillscape. What do you reckon King Arthur thinks about these wind turbines? Do you think he's pro green energy or against the blight on the natural landscape?
I think he'd be pro.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, once again, our guide for this adventure is the Folklore, Myths and Legends of Britain, a classic. And here we are in the land of the Red Dragon. And we are somewhere in this region here, Glenneath here, where this treasure box is. The Craig y Dinas Cave near Neath. Arthur's resting place. So that is what we are looking for today.
Put your indicator on.
King Arthur's opened a hotel, look, for all his sleeping warriors.
I think you're good this side, Just. Yeah.
We are looking for King Arthur's resting place.
Is that it?
So you can see Dinas Rock through the window of the van. Here, Craig Dinas, the rock of the Stronghold. So this had a stronghold on top of it once upon a time. And there is a cave, according to legend, the other side of that rock face. Huge cavern where King Arthur sleeps with his sleeping knights. So we're going to have a little explore. Here we are at the Dinas Rock. We're going to go following this trail here to this waterfall. Beautiful sound of the cascading waterfalls and rivers down the gorge below us here. Look at that. Oh, don't want to climb on top of this. Just tumble right down there, end up in their garden. Fonnu. Yeah, it does. That lad was telling me that there's been a rockfall just at the base of that Dinas Rock down there.
Recently?
Yeah, today. The first time in years, apparently, according to him, just fell and shattered from beneath the roots of that oak tree. Nobody was hurt. Maybe it's uncovered the entrance to Arthur's cave. I'm literally expecting the ground to open up beneath my feet at any minute.
Don't do spells on yourself.
There's a sheer drop the other side of that tree. Just go straight down.
Nero, wait.
See if this is Arthur's cave. I did hear there was a very ancient, abandoned mine down here somewhere. This whole mountain is riddled with caves. Arthur has to be sleeping in one of them. There's a COVID mask.
Ooh.
Wonder how long that's been there.
Maybe that's the hazel tree.
Okay. Over there, look at that hazel coppice. Amazing. Lots of good staffs on there, look. It's like a hand. And that bough's fallen. And all these straight rods coming up. Such a useful material that the ancient Britons have been using for thousands of years.
It's alright, isn't it?
It's alright, it'll do. This building aggregate slightly takes away from the mythos. See, even up here on the side of this wild mountain of myth, there's a bloody plantation. But I see a mushroom. I don't know what that is. Anyone know? Doesn't look very appetizing. Look, you can just tell it's just dead in here, just a dead ecosystem compared to the sort of bird and insect life in the native bit of bush just the other side of the path. On one side of the path is life, on the other side, death.
The government asked farmers to put like a subsidy, like gave them a subsidy for plantations, isn't they?
I think so. There's giants on the landscape. King Arthur will doubtless do battle with them one day and strike them from the hill. Look at them waving their arms, silly giants. May I always encourage you to see the mythos in the landscape. This is no geological feature here. Imagine perhaps that this stone was cast by King Arthur himself in the Age of Myth, when he was battling one of those giants, flying through the air and landing right here on the mountainside, where it has remained. Was it a buzzard? It's really got the thermals there, hasn't it? Brooding sky. It's got to be a buzzard. See the rain coming down the other side of the valley. Silly giants. It's amazing, isn't it? Maybe it's Gawain, the Hawk of May. Gwalchmai. While he sleeps beneath this hill, he sends his animal totem out above the hillside. Said,
I think we'll go that way.
yeah?
Yeah, because we're like here, so that's that path, and then that's that path.
The left-hand path, then. Wow. Yeah, this feels... Speaking of Arthurian mythos, this could almost be the sword in the stone. Imagine pulling Excalibur from that. Don't know if you can get a sense of this, you guys on camera, but this feels like an important place. I wish I knew the folklore attached to this stone, because I'm sure there is a story attached to it. You can hear the waterfall now. Don't know if you guys can hear that. I believe it's probably classed as temperate rainforest. You forget that a lot of Britain and Ireland is actually technically a rainforest. It does fucking rain a lot. That is a waterfall. Is that good, babe? Is it quite fizzy? You got 40 spoon blanks under the bed. How much potential income is that?
A lot.
Is it? You got to whittle them into spoons now, though.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to buy a wooden spoon, go to Tamsin's website, Quin Woodcraft. For example, Tamsin has just made a set of green man spoons in our green man van. Here they are. So these are all available on Tam's website, Quin Woodcraft. Today we are having a venison chop, which we will be marinating in mead, which my friend Jason has brewed. Mead and venison chop. Bit of moutarde. It's not Welsh, it's English. Bit of Santo Domingo paprika, why not? Chuck some of that on there. Right, we're doing an experiment today. This!
Great idea!
After a nice rest. Is that? Oh, that is pink and tender. Look at that. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yes.
That is pretty tender. Here you go, my love.
Thank you. And I have just the spoon to eat it with.
He's having loads of fun.
Are they?
Yeah, like he's throwing mad wizard shapes under the rock of Arthur. Maybe it's mushroom time. I think it probably is mushroom time. That's all right.
Yeah. I'm shrooming.
Shroomy, yeah, I saw you dancing. I wondered if you had a bit of a shroom.
You good?
Yeah, not too bad. Oh, it's a good rock, isn't it?
We're just
you
losing.
doing, all right?
We're absolutely mid-trip. Hello, wizard. Right, epic, mate.
Have a great fucking trip, right?
Yeah, we're tripping out with this now, mate.
Oh, that's hilarious. Bless them. They've all just dropped a whole load of fucking shrooms in their mid-trip.
Oh no, Dave, you've done it over.
No, but our fella, though, he was like, oh, no, he's a good wizard. He's a good wizard, he was saying.
Oh, to hear.
I feel like I should point out at this point in the edit that I did meet these lads that were sharing the car park with us that night at Dinas Rock. I met them earlier in the evening. They knew who I was vaguely. I didn't just burst in, bringing stranger danger into the middle of their trip. That would be a very strange thing to do. But I did just tell them briefly when they were tripping about King Arthur and his knights the other side of that very rock face they were camping under. So I wonder if any of that filtered into their dreams and hallucinations that evening. This is where these lads were having a little mushroom trip last night, projecting their images on Plato's cave wall here. Wonder if any of them dreamt of King Arthur's sleeping nights beneath the mountain last night. This rock tumbled down the cliff face yesterday, apparently. uprooted from behind that tree. Look at it all. All that on the ground there is new. The little bits. Some mountain spirit having a bit of a tantrum, perhaps. Day trippers arriving. Not sure about them, are you, mate?
Bore da, Mrs. Jones.
Nero.
Oopsie. Oh dear.
Oh, you silly dog.
Bless
You
her.
breakfast ruiner.
He hasn't ruined it.
Look at that hazel tree there growing right out of a crack in a rock. Its roots might be tickling Sir Kay's beard. Ooh, it's a bit hairy up here. Onward. Whoa. Okay. Here I am. Right at the very top here. So here we are. This behind me is Craig y Dinas, the rock of the Stronghold, or in English, Dinas Rock. And there we are, there's Big Greenie parked down below in the car park. Slightly ruins the mythos there, the car park, but has to be there. So there would have been on this cliff face above me a Iron Age stronghold, a fortress of some kind. Amazing defensive position with, just imagining maybe in the Iron Age this is some sort of vantage point for a lookout or a scout to survey everything. There's a little oak tree making a life for himself up here. One day, mate, you could be as big as your grandfather up there. I think I'm getting more cautious in my 40th year, but previously I would have scrambled right up there, but now I know there's just been a rockfall down there. I'm sort of not really inclined to. This here is good enough. So I'm just perched right here on a little grassy tussock just below the rock. Happy day, praise Arthur, praise the Great Bear, who is sleeping in that hillside. Now to head back down. It's amazing to think that this rock beneath my feet is just like a piece of Swiss cheese riddled with caves. Nope. No King Arthur. Just a big pile of shit. Just having a little explore around the base of Dinas Rock here. Craig Dinas. The rock of the stronghold. That was from the Iron Age. Oh, look, a squirrel. See him on that branch? He's got a hazelnut in his mouth. Hello, mate. Oh, and he's off. It's a fantastic place to put a fortress, really. It's got the river down there, fresh water. This whole piece of rock is riddled with mines that are ancient mines. of course, the symbology of caves as well, meaning an entrance to the underworld. The Chthonic realm, associated with gnomes and goblins, but also Underworld Kings, or reviving, dying and resurrecting kings, often tied to seasonality and fertility of the land, also wealth, gold and silver, because that lives underground in the domain of Hades or Pluto or whichever underworld king from your chosen pantheon. This just feels like an Arthurian landscape. All of this just feels like it's dripping in myth, folk and fairy tale. Just feel it in the landscape. So now, for the story of King Arthur and his sleeping knights. Or as I like to call it, the Welshman, the Wizard, and the Hazel Tree.
Long ago, long ago, in West Wales, not far from here, there was a boy born. Now this boy was the seventh son of a seventh son. And as you all know, such a child is destined for great things. It is said that the seventh son of a seventh son is 49 parts human to 1 part the fairy folk, the Teg, the others. And they always have a brush with deep things. So this boy grew up to be a clever, strong lad, and he had an adventurous spirit and a lucky glint in his eye. And one day he took leave of his mother and father and journeyed east in search of fame and fortune. And he came near to this place, Dinas Rock in English, Craig y Dinas in Welsh, the rock of the Stronghold, an ancient place. And somewhere around here, he came across a wealthy farmer, and the farmer recognized this boy and thought he had a lucky gleam in his eye, and he said, "You, I would like to entrust you with my flock, with my sheep, and I would like you to drive them." Drove them all the way to London, as is still a Welsh tradition, and fetch a good price for my flock, and you will be richly rewarded. Well, the young Welsh boy, he agreed to this, and the farmer agreed to give him a dog to drive the sheep. "But you will have to cut your own star," said the farmer, "your own hazel rod." "I will do that," said the boy. So we walked up onto this very mountain you see before you now. The rock me and Tam have been walking over this past day or so. And he found a good, strong hazel rod, and he cut it. And if you want to know more all about the mythology of the hazel tree, I'll put a link to that video here. So he cut a good, strong hazel rod, did this boy. And he drove that farmer's flock all the way to London with all the other drovers, all the other lads driving their sheep before them, going along the ridgeway, most likely. And then he found a good price for that flock. Now, all the other drovers, all their hazel rods were in pieces. They were like pieces of straw by the end of the journey, but not this young seventh son of the seventh son. His hazel rod was straight and true all the way there. And he sold his flock, or his boss's flock, and then he was at a loose end, and he was in London, and it was dusk, and he was crossing London Bridge, coming back the other way, just with his hazel staff and his dog. And on London Bridge, he met a stranger. And if you meet a stranger on London Bridge in twilight, in the Dempsey time, In the time between dog and wolf, you can be sure that that person is a cunning man, a witch, or warlock. And this stranger accosted this Welshman and said, "Hello there, where do you come from?" Now it's fitting for a Welshman to be guarded when in a foreign land. So he said, "I come from my own country." "Fair enough," said the wizard. "What is your name, then, boy?" "My name is the name my father gave me," replied the Welshman. "And where, if I might ask, did you get that rod of hazel in your hand?" "From a hazel stump that I cut it from," said the Welshman. The warlock chuckled. "Very good, very good. I asked you 3 questions, and you were cagey with your answer. Very fitting. But now I will tell you something. The hazel tree that you cut that staff from, if you remember where it is and are able to show me there, I can show you great treasure buried beneath it. What do you say?" "Well," said the Welshman, "I am the 7th son of a 7th son." "I know," said the warlock, "and I am here to seek my fortune. So lead on." So that Welshman had been led all the way to London, only to meet a stranger over running water, to be led exactly back to the land he had come from, like so many treasure seekers before him. So that Welshman, 7th son of a 7th son, led that English wizard all the way back west, all the way back along the ridgeway, all the way back to this place, Craig y Dinas. And that Welshman picked his way up the hillside and found the very hazel coppice that he had cut that rod from that time before. He could still see the knife mark, the stump where he had cut that piece of wood. So with the help of that English wizard, they got mattocks and shovels and they uprooted that hazel tree. And underneath they found a flat slab of rock. And they lifted that slab with great difficulty. And underneath there was a passageway, a cave going into the mountainside. And they lit torches, and that Welshman and that English wizard, they went down underneath the mountainside in a narrow passageway with flagstones. And then, glinting in the torchlight, they saw a great brass bell hanging from the roof. "Be careful not to touch the bell," said the Englishman. "Be very, very careful. Squeeze past if you can." Well, the Welshman and that warlock were both slight of physique, and they slipped round that bell and deeper into the cavern. And then their torchlight illuminated a sight that Welshman, the likes of which he had never seen before. It was a huge cavern. And there were, sleeping on the floor of the cavern, warriors in armor, in a great ring, their heads on the outside, their feet in the middle. There must have been 1,000 men on the outer ring, and on the inside 100 men within them, and on the far outside all of the horses, sleeping, their heads towards the center, their bridles before them. And in the very center of the ring was a huge heap of gold and a huge heap of silver, and before that was some kind of emperor king, his helm and shield and sword glistening, all the armor and gold glistening in the torchlight, glistening by some power of its own light. The Welshman, 7th son of a 7th son, moved greedily towards the piles of treasure. "Not so fast," said the cunning man. "Now, I have led you here to help you seek your fortune, because I know you are the 7th son of a 7th son, and you are to find great wealth whether I help you or not. But heed my advice. Take from one pile the gold or the silver, not of both. I think I'll be taking the gold, said the Welshman. Very well. Fill your pockets as much as you can carry, but not too much. You need to slip past the bell on the way out. And if you ever visit here again, you should not need to. You should be able to carry enough gold to invest intelligently, and it will sustain you for the rest of a fulfilling life. But should misfortune befall you, or the gold is ever stolen from you, and you need to come to this place again, remember, if you ever do ring the bell, and the warriors here awake, they will ask, "Is it day?" And you must say, "No, it is not yet day. Sleep on." And the warriors will go back to sleep. Remember these words. Yeah, I think I can remember, said the Welshman, and he filled his pockets with gold. And then he turned around to the cunning man and said, "Are you not going to have any?" And the cunning man said, No. I learned how to turn base metals into gold long, long ago, and I have no need of the stuff any longer. I am seeking another kind of gold. The Welshman laughed at this winsome woo-woo noise and said, "Suit yourself," and laid in his pockets with more gold. And then the Welshman and the wizard snuck out of that cave, squeezing past the bell. It went home as they snuck past, and the wizard turned around. One of the warriors stirred, but did not wake, and they snuck out of that hole, replaced the stone and the hazel tree, and the wizard and the Welshman bid each other farewell, and that cunning man went back into the mists of time and into another storm. But the Welshman, well, he was a rich man, seventh son of a seventh son. He had fulfilled his destiny, and he was very generous with that gold. He bought houses, he bought drinks, he bought sheep, he bought many things, and he put all that gold away. And soon enough, after a few short years, he had no more gold. And he found himself again with a spade and mattock, alone this time, in the drizzle, under the cloud and cover of night, again before that hazel tree. And he started digging and upturned the stone, and in he crept by torchlight in the tunnel, past the great bell, and there were the sleeping warriors of King Arthur's court. And he helped himself not to the gold, to the silver this time. Just one, he remembered the advice of the cunning man all those years before. Filled his pockets with silver, too much. And as he snuck past the bell, it brushed against and went dong. And one of the warriors awoke, and then another, and in unison they said, "Is it day?" One had a voice like birdsong, the other had a deep voice like a bull, and the other was so menacing and gravelly that it put fear into the Welshman's heart. But he remembered the words, he remembered the magic spell. He said, "It is not yet day. Sleep on." Just like that, the warriors, boom, fell back to sleep, and that Welshman snuck past the bell and out into safety. And he invested wisely this time. He got a nice, cash ISA. He invested in some stocks and shares. He invested in property. But still, he frittered all his silver away. He was too generous, too careless with his wealth. And why shouldn't he be? Life is for living, my friends. And soon enough, after a few short years, he found himself again before the hazel tree he knew so well, with a spade and mattock and a sack in hand. And he again upended that tree, upended that stone, and in he crept. But time and liquor and gambling and women and all the trials and tribulations of life had not been kind to the seventh son of a seventh son. He no longer had that sharpness of mind he had when he was a young lad. And he came squeezing past the bell. He had a bit of a belly now. And he gathered silver and gold, mixed them both together. He forgot the words of the wizard all those years ago. He filled his sacks full of gold. "I'm not coming here again," he said to himself, all the gold he could carry, and then he snuck past that bell.
And this is the point in the video where I finally break my lapel microphone with bell sounds going bong. So I tried to fix this really dodgy audio in the video with some software that rescued most of it, but kind of curiously changed my accent. So I hope you're enjoying the tour around the world, from Ireland to Jamaica to China to the East End of London and back to Wales in this video. Sorry, I'll make it better next time. Back to the video.
There was a huge crash, and one of the bags split, and coins fell out on the floor. Ching, 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 ching. One of the horses awoke and kicked over a helmet. "How you doing, Clucky?" Oh, all the warriors now awaking, like meerkats, awaking all over the place. There was Sakai. There was Gwalchmai, the Hawk of May. There was Tristan. There, perhaps, was Sir Lancelot. There was King Arthur himself, the great bear, rousing from his throne. "Is it day?" they said, blinking around, and then they locked eyes at this Welshman, busted, his hands full of gold and silver by a bell still vibrating. There was a great silence, and the Welshman opened his mouth. He had forgot the words. He just went, "Ah, ah." A gravelly silence descended, and Arthur said to his men, "No, it is not day, and our hour has not yet come. Will you, my brothers, wake for this?" And he pointed at the Welshman, who looked like a bedraggled, clay-covered weasel before them. Sakai, furious, got off and grabbed the Welshman by the neck, flung him against the cave wall, and was just about to smash his head. And Arthur, the great bear, in his kindness, said, "No, he is not worth it. Fling him out of the cave. Sleep on, my brave warriors, until the end of days." And that Welshman was flung out of the cave, breaking arms and legs on the way down, not a penny in his pocket, and he crawled back to the nearest pub. He told no one of his story. It was years before he told anyone, and even then people laughed and jeered at him, until one day, as an old man, he got a group of villagers and came to the very spot that the hazel tree was gone and the rock was gone. The hole into the underworld was sealed. And they jeered and laughed at him even more, gave him another beating, and that seventh son of a seventh son missed his chance at the big shot. He had his chance, 3 chances, and he wasted them. And as you already know, my friends, because that Welshman, that wizard told all, the sleeping knights were, of course, King Arthur's retinue. And their emperor was the great bear himself. And they are resting, waiting beneath that mountain until the great day comes, when the sky and earth trembles and a great enemy comes. No, not the Normans, not the Saxons, not the Nazis, not the Russians. A greater enemy comes. And then King Arthur and his knights ride forth out of this hill and drive them into the sea.
So that's the folk tale of King Arthur and his sleeping warriors, which I like to call the Welshman, the Wizard, and the Hazel Tree. But what does it mean? What do all these stories mean? These stories of sleeping kings, chthonic kings, Underworld Kings. Well, Arthur is not alone. There are many, many, many legends of sleeping kings from these islands alone. King Arthur's probably the most famous, but there's also in Ireland Finn MacCool, who has strong parallels with King Arthur. He is sleeping under a hill in Ireland, waiting to return. A lesser known one from Wales is, of course, King Bran, the Raven King, the Giant King, whose head is buried under the Tower of London. I've told the story of Bran the Blessed on this channel. I'll put a link to it. Mainland Europe has its fair share of sleeping kings. Probably every country in Europe. If you are watching from Europe and have a sleeping king, let me know. From the top of my head, France has Charlemagne, Germany has Barbarossa, Denmark has Holger Danske, all asleep in caverns underground, waiting to return to usher in a new golden age that was lost. But what do they mean? Well, there's a few strands of meaning here with these chthonic kings, these underworld heroes. I've hinted at some already. But one that's often given that, I think does have some truth for it. It's when an age, it's nostalgia for an age that was lost, isn't it, in some sense? So a lot of these stories come from the migration era in 5th and 6th century. King Arthur, that's where the historical King Arthur would be placed in about the 5th century, with the Saxon migration moving across Britain. It's a yearning for the native British, the Welsh, more or less, for a bygone age, a better age. There is some truth in that, but it feels a little bit superficial. I think there's something much deeper going on here. I've hinted at it already. Seasonality, to a whole host of disappearing and reappearing god kings that go right back into prehistory. So King Arthur and his sleeping knights, King Arthur almost represents the solar cycle and the agricultural cycle that depends on it. So the grain, the spirit of new growth going to sleep and then returning again in the new year. This really important seasonal agricultural cycle going right back to the agricultural revolution in the Mesolithic, Neolithic era. With Arthur, we can probably tie this back even further. King Arthur, in the Welsh, his name means bear. He is, this is probably a link to sort of maybe Celtic, pre-Christian belief in animal power and shape-shifting. So Arthur is a great bear. That's his totem animal. Just like Gawain is a hawk, the hawk of May, another solar symbol. We'll get to him in a couple of weeks' time. But Arthur, the great bear, some suggest this might link him to bear cults, going right back further than the Neolithic, further than the Mesolithic, back to the Old Stone Age, the Paleolithic. Bears, remember, hibernate all through the winter and then emerge in spring. So a symbol of the death and renewal of the year. Could this be where Arthur truly originates? The great bear asleep in the mountain side. Arthur is also linked to the constellation of Ursa Major, the plough in English, or the Big Dipper if you're in the USA. Kind of think the ancients had a more gravitas and mystique with the great bear. Modern naming conventions don't have quite as much gravitas. Agricultural implements and a saucepan. But the great bear circles around the pole stars. Never-ending cycle, never-ending. So again, it's this cyclical nature that governs all of us. Very important in Celtic mythos and symbolism, as well as much, much older symbolism in the Neolithic and earlier. So all these folk tales of sleeping kings, much later echoes of a much earlier spiritual notion of dying and returning celestial bodies, the sun and the stars, never-ending cycle, and the cycle that governs the growing of crops and governs all of our lives and our own death and rebirth. So something very, very ancient there with the great bear, Arthur, asleep, the king under the mountain. I think it's really important when studying our old myths and folklore to always connect them to the natural world, both locality and seasonality, because these things can't be connected. Some old storytellers say that our myths are the dreaming of the earth itself, so it's a way for us to reconnect to the natural world that we've become so disembodied from in our modern age. Someone's been to co-op. Oh, you didn't know there was a co-op in Craig Dinas? Hey, babe, what's for Dinas? Do you want to have a Welsh cowl?
I'll show you what's for dinner. I got some treats. Shall I show you?
Go on then.
The piece de resistance.
Oh, yeah. Are we on honeymoon, babe? Who needs a refrigeration system in your van when you've got Welsh rivers? There you go.
I don't know how you say that, but I sat on that rock earlier and it was lovely.
If you want to look like a bit of a twat, then get yourself some 5-finger toe shoes.
Sexy.
So, now for something a bit more personal. This place, Waterfall County in just the bottom of the Brecon Beacon National Park, does have a lot of significance for me and Tamsin here, because we had our second ever date in this area when Tamsin used to live in Blenavon, and we went to waterfall hopping together, swimming naked in waterfalls and having a wonderful time. Before all this happened, Tam, who's holding the camera now, had a dream, real big dream, you might say. A dream of us doing all these sorts of things, like swimming in rivers and sleeping on blankets of moss under trees and running free, living a kind of wild life that we live now, in a way. And Tamsin, my now wife, brought this vision into being, because my wife is a witch. This is Night Vision by Tamsin Quin.
He reappears as a clear night vision. Call it a dream or a hallucination, but either way, I'd like to go there someday. I'm running low on inspiration, lost all hope for my ambition, but not today. We don't have to stay awake. And we'll contemplate the earth on our feet, seek nothing but shade from the old oak tree. I'll hold on to you as we drift off to sleep, sleep in my sweetest dream. He drifted in like a late spring blossom, talking to birds in a tongue long forgotten, and with eyes like oceans. I'm not looking for the shore. Curled up in burrows, using moss as a blanket. Our souls alive with a newfound courage to share these parts of us with pure liberty. And we'll contemplate disregard all the words people say. We never needed their permission anyway. In my sweetest dream. And there's a rabbit hole I don't mind falling down, despite the bruises and the dents in the ground. There's a place where a simpler life is found. In my sweetest dream. In my sweetest dream. In my sweetest dream.
So I hope you enjoyed that. Bit of a different video about King Arthur, who's asleep in that rock face behind me now. So if you want to hear more about Arthurian folklore and mythology and story, I've got quite a lot on this channel already. See you next time, my friends, in the green van of myth and folklore.